Metallic Minerals Keno Hill has produced over 200 million ounces of silver and currently hosts one of the world's highest grade silver resources. Greg Johnson is CEO of Metallic Minerals, ticker MMG on the Venture Exchange. Greg, could you provide us with an overview of Metallic Minerals?
Yeah, you bet. Great to be back with you again. Metallic Minerals is a silver-focused explorer developer. Our core assets are in the historic Keno Hill Silver District next to Alexco Resources, who is the operator in the district. We also have an earlier stage project called La Plata in the southwestern US, which is a new component to our portfolio, and an alluvial royalty business that we're just starting to get off the ground.
Let's talk about Keno Hill. Can you talk about the geology? What's there? What are you doing?
So Keno Hill, for people who are not as familiar, is one of the world's highest grade. It's a high-grade massive sulfide vein district and has over 100 years of mining history. As you mentioned in the introduction, it's one of the highest grade in the world. It's over 200 million ounces of historic production, as well as almost 100 million ounces of new resources, which is one of the highest grade resources in the industry. So we are exploring in this district next door to Alexco Resources, who is going back into production fourth quarter of this year, I think their guidance is. They are dominantly on the west and central parts of the district. We're dominantly on the eastern end and central, and in a few places on the west part of the district.
Can you take us through the geology? What are you exploring?
So these, geologically, the Keno Hill system is similar to Coeur d'Alene, who some of the listeners may be familiar with companies like Coeur and Hecla that hailed from that area. That district, of course, has had a lot more mining development, but it's produced over 2 billion ounces of silver historically, down to a depth of about 3 kilometers depth. By comparison, Keno Hill, the deepest mine historically mined was about 300 meters from surface. And the new resources in the district are mostly less than 400 meters from surface. So much more early days in Keno, and we think the geology holds out the potential for new discoveries because of that relatively early days in terms of prospectivity. Very straightforward geologic setting. You've got what are called metasedimentary rocks that make up the host. The most brittle of those rocks, the Keno Hill quartzite and the greenstone, are our targets. And what we're looking for are these productive structures that rip through those, and when they hit those brittle rocks, they form the open space to allow these deposits to form.
Can you talk about the management and also your relationship with Group 10?
Yeah, so the Metallic Minerals is part of a group of companies called the Metallic Group. We got started in just 2016 with a common vision. We recognized that we were in a bear market, and we said, how do we position ourselves to benefit from the next coming market? Didn't know exactly when it was going to happen, but the first opportunity that came through the door was to acquire this other half of the Keno Hill Silver District. And so acquiring that ground really in 3 parts. Assets that were owned by private individuals that we acquired, assets that were owned by other public companies that it wasn't their focus, and then because it was a bear market, ground that had been dropped and we staked. And that allowed us to put together the second largest land position in the district. The second company to come into the group was Group 10 Metals, already had a PGM and battery metal focus in Yukon, and then an opportunity to pick up the lower part of the Stillwater complex came in, and that's currently Group 10's focus. And then the newest member of the Metallic Group is Granite Creek Copper, and it is, as the name implies, copper and gold focused in the central Yukon Minto-Carmex copper belt. Just got it off the ground in 2019. There's been a few significant announcements by Granite Creek Copper here just in the last few months, including a merger with the next door neighbor Copper North asset.
Track record always matters in these things. Greg, maybe you should talk a little bit about your background and before you came to Metallic.
Absolutely. I started out my career, I'm an exploration geologist by training. Started out my career with Placer Dome, who of course was acquired by Barrick Gold back in the early 2000s. Went on to co-found Nova Gold Resources with Rick Van Nieuwenhuizen. Was there for about a dozen years and was part of growing that company from a micro-cap explorer with 3 exploration geologists at the helm to a $2 billion company in late 2010 when I left, and there were 200 employees. So I've been fortunate in my career to be involved in a number of major discoveries and expansion. Donlin Creek, the large gold asset in Alaska, Galore Creek in British Columbia, which is copper, gold, silver, Wellgreen, and the Ambler assets. And so myself and my team, many of us are former Nova Gold, or even before that, former Placer Dome. So we've got a group of people who've worked together in the past, have this great track record of discovery and advancement, and are working collectively across the Metallic Group teams. So in a way, we've got 3 separate companies, management and board of directors that are separate clearly, but we can share some technical people across the 3. We've got a common CFO and back office, which means we keep our costs lower. And it creates a really exciting environment to be working on 3 or 4 now with La Plata exciting projects within the group of companies.
Let's go back to Keno Hill. Can you talk about the infrastructure that you have in the area?
Well, one of the great things about working in a brownfields district where you've got this historic mining, the mill's already there, the power's already there, you've got road access, you've got access to a year-round deep sea port for concentrate. So though there are very remote parts of the Yukon, Keno Hill has excellent infrastructure already in place, and this could really facilitate being able to fast-track discoveries to production and keep the costs as well as the timelines short. So in the Keno district, most of the district is road accessible. Some areas are just becoming road accessible. And so it really makes it an easy place for us to have low cost, efficient exploration.
Can you talk about the First Nations in the area?
Yeah, so the First Nations here, it's a single First Nation, and what people may not be aware is that Yukon has more settled First Nations than any other part of Canada. Nacho Dun is the First Nation in the Keno region. This region includes Victoria Gold, Alexico Resources, both who have impact benefit agreements in place with the First Nation. Earlier stage groups such as ourselves, we have a great working relationship with Nacho Dun, and we use a lot of local-based contractors that are from the local community.
Can you talk about the share structure, and can you talk about what stake management has in Metallic?
Absolutely. So we've got about 120 million shares outstanding. We've got about $10 million in cash today. We've got about $12 million in the money warrants and options that are coming in nicely with the current market conditions. Management owns about 22%, management and close insiders of the company. Eric Sprott's our largest individual holder. He's taken 2 stakes in Metallic Minerals. And then we've got about a dozen institutional holders after that, including US Global is probably the most well-known of those names. And the rest are made up of a collection of high net worth individuals, many of who've invested with us in the past, as well as our retail investor base.
What's your news going to be for the next 12 months? What should investors take a look out for?
So we completed a significant financing in August with Canaccord, a syndicate led by Canaccord, $8 million, and that was really that brought in these new institutional investors. That funded us to be able to do an expanded program at Keno Hill, which we launched last month. We've added a second drill and are drilling both reverse circulation on some of the early stage targets as well as core on the advanced stage targets. So that program is ongoing, and we're expecting first drill results to start to come in and be analyzed soon. So news flow from that should continue well into next year. In addition, in Metallic Minerals, our early stage La Plata project, which was a former Rio Tinto Phelps Dodge asset with a historic resource, we're just kicking off exploration on there, and that exploration will run into the late fall. So it should be a really nice flow of news and catalysts from here well into 2021.
You've had a long career in the Yukon. You've worked at many projects. What is it like working in the Yukon? What do you like about the region?
I think the Yukon is one of the best jurisdictions for exploration really globally, and certainly it stands out in my mind in North America. It's the number one economic driver is mining. It's a relatively small population with a large land base and an outstanding geologic environment. The Yukon understands how to permit exploration. They understand how to permit mines. In fact, we've had 3 new mines come on stream in the last 12 months with Alexico's return to production in the 4th quarter of this year, which is a really exciting development for the region and for the Yukon. And I think it really demonstrates that projects can move forward from exploration stage to advanced development to production in a seamless way. Because it's a smaller population, you've got very responsive government. They often attend some of these conferences with us, really to put out the message that Yukon is open for business. The environmental standards are well known and they're high, as they should be, but it's a well understood for business what you need to achieve to be able to advance your projects and what work needs to be done.
Thank you very much, Greg.
Thank you very much for having us.